don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. Anyone else but me. No, 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 don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me.
Hi there. I am getting very close to the end of this apple tree series. I'm sure you can understand that at this point, I very much so just kind of want to get it over and done with. It's just been aggravating, and it is quite upsetting to find out all these things. I mean, if I wanted to, I could put together like one of those, kind of funny little videos where, each event you can see the 8 different answers that you get or whatever it is. So I'm trying to just kind of work my way through this, as I said. So I have looked at just about every aspect. The one thing that I have, well, there's 2 things that I have left to do. One is this, where I am looking at 3 or 4 of the interviews that happened post-Megxit that I haven't covered yet, that for various reasons I thought they were worth covering. And if you have been going along the way with me on all of this, you would have seen that we are all leading to where that shady bunch starts to form. And you will see that in these interviews that I'm going to show you today. I mean, some of these I never even knew what had happened before. And the fact that they did, in hindsight, it's like, well, yeah, the handwriting was there. We saw it all along. It was right in front of our faces, and we were just missing it. So let's take a look into this. This first, I'm going to start out with an interview with 60 Minutes Australia. Again, always Australia. And, I get emails every day about why it's so significant. And I'm sure that at least half of them are true. But without being able to confirm or, validate them, I'm still waiting out there. If I ever am able to, I certainly will. But for now, we're going to start with Thomas Markle Sr.'s interview in, as I said, June 13th, 2021. And to put it into context, that is a couple months after um, the Oprah interview. This is a couple weeks after the birth of Lily. And this would be close to the passing of Prince Philip. So that's just to kind of give you a sense of what was going on around this, because this isn't going to happen in a vacuum, obviously. This is happening, well, there's a reason why these are the times that the media is going to turn to the Markle family and get their perspective. And I would imagine that the primary reason at this point was the birth of Lily.
She welcomed her second child into the world last week, Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor.
Harry and Meghan say they plan to call her Lily.
Lily is a perfect name. And the other thing that makes me happy is there's now about a lot more Markle blood in the royal family.
Now, right there, my alarm bells went off like crazy. Why is it important that there is more Markle blood in the royal family? I guarantee you, I have a similar situation. I understand the concept of being estranged from an adult child, although mine isn't really an adult, but that's a different story. And the idea of finding out about a grandchild through unusual means or impersonal means. Let me tell you, my first thought would not be there's my blood there. I mean, I don't have a clue how that could be even on his radar. And the fact that it is, to me, in my opinion, is disgusting. It who cares who's where that it's in the royal blood? It's not the important thing. Focus on the fact that your daughter still isn't speaking to you, and let the fact that it's because that she is married to a member of the royal family, that's so irrelevant to the entire fiasco, that the fact that he would say that is disgusting to me. I'm sorry, that's my opinion. I understand that might not be everybody's, but that was how I felt when I heard that. And the reason it's important is because that tells me that the priorities are out of whack. The priority should be a healthy, happy grandchild that you are communicating with her parents. The priority should not be, ooh, more Markle blood in the royal family line. I mean, I have no way to relate to that statement whatsoever.
You're becoming a grandfather again.
Absolutely.
What are the emotions like for you with that happening, but effectively being separated?
Well, August 4th, 40 years ago, Megan was born, and she was born as a C-section, so she was put in my arms. I was the first person to hold her. Her little hand went around my fingers like that, and I fell in love with her, and I've been that way for 40 years.
Okay. Am I there?
And I really do miss her.
I hope you're having the best birthday you've ever had. Thank you for everything.
I'll be very disappointed that I don't get to hold my granddaughter.
Does it hurt?
Of course it hurts. There are axe murderers in prison. Their family comes to see them, right? I mean, I'm not an axe murderer, you know. I made one dumb mistake, and I'm never being forgiven for it. And this show that they're on, they talk about compassion.
This is where I struggle in this whole thing, and I don't struggle to find a bad guy, which, people say, what, are you defending Meghan Markle? No, absolutely not. In this situation, I struggle to find a good guy because if you want to say, okay, yeah, it's ridiculous that Meghan has cut her father off for something as ridiculous as she apparently has. I mean, it's asinine. But then it goes back to, but he's the one that raised her to be this way. I mean, how is this? Did he not get a clue when she sent her wedding rings back in the mail that something went awry in the raising of your daughter part? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me that this is such a shock to them. I mean, she was what, 30 something when she married Harry? She'd already done this to an ex-husband. She'd already done this to a best friend. I mean, apparently she'd already done this to her siblings because they didn't really have a relationship with her. So why, and possibly had done this for many years to her mother until her mother became useful to her. So why on earth is this such a big shock to Thomas? That Meghan would be capable of this sort of surgical cut and this sort of cruelty. I don't buy that this didn't come from somewhere. And the only place it could have come, he's told us many times, he's the one that raised her. Well, if he's the one that raised her, then that's where it came from, in my opinion.
You've done one TV interview in the last 16 or 17 months. Why have you decided to speak to us today?
Because I have things to say. Oprah Winfrey, for one. I think Oprah Winfrey is playing Harry and Meghan.
To go.
I think she's using them to build her network and build her new shows. And I think she's taking advantage of a very weakened man and getting him to say things that you just shouldn't be saying on television.
So you think Oprah's seen, I guess, the frailties of Harry and Meghan and decided to then cash in on that?
I think so.
Now, the more I'm looking into the Markle backstory, the less I believe any of it. So that's just my bias that I'm going to put out there. And remember, I've watched hours upon hours of these interviews. So even the stuff I don't show you, I've still watched. So I believe it less and less every day. But let's just go with the narrative that they are saying is true and accurate. Your daughter is not speaking to you because of a handful of ridiculous photos that really weren't even that awful. And that has caused this humongous rift in your family. In what way, if that is true, would this interview where you rip apart Oprah be a smart move? I mean, there's literally no way whatsoever that this would be the next logical, intelligent thing to do, which is why none of it makes any sense to me. That's why I'm saying that none of it is believable because it's too stupid for words to do what he's doing right now. He's now going to throw Oprah under the bus and think that somehow what? That's going to kiss up to Meghan? I mean, come on. If, when she was getting married, she chose all these celebrities, especially Oprah, over you and the rest of her family, why do you think she's going to change that position now? Of course, she's going to still pick Oprah over you guys because now Oprah's paying her. I mean, it's ludicrous.
If you ever caught up with Prince Charles for a beer, you two would probably have quite a bit in common.
I think we'd get along quite well, and it's unfortunate what's happened to him as well. He seems like a likable guy, and actually appreciated the fact that he walked my daughter down the aisle. I couldn't have asked for, certainly couldn't have asked for a better replacement.
In my opinion, that was an incredibly bitter thing to say. I mean, why are you going back there? Why are you bringing it back up? There's no reason for it. I mean, stick with, we might have a lot in common, and I feel bad for him. That right there, the rest of it, it's just making things that aren't about him about him. Where have we seen that before? I am by no means a shrinking violet here. I'm a pretty outspoken type person. But the thought of living in an environment where you had to fight daily with everybody else making everything about themselves, I mean, I probably would have had a nervous breakdown in that environment because all four of them do it. All four of them do it all the time. And it must have been a constant competition to make everything about yourself. I personally wouldn't have been one that would thrive in that environment.
I love my children. I love my other daughter. I love my son. Of course I love them.
Do you think she still loves you?
I have no idea. I don't, like I said, I haven't spoken to her since I was laying in a hospital bed 2 days before they got married. That's the last conversation we had. That was it. I haven't spoken to him since.
I mean, is he trying to look like the good guy? Is he trying to do a guilt trip? Does he know? Like, he's all over the map here, and I don't understand without a clear path here on how this is going to help him repair his relationship with his daughter. Doing this interview is foolish. And if he had a consistent narrative that he was going to present, fine. That would make sense. But the problem is that he's all over the place and given the tension that already exists in their family, I can't see how being all over the place and giving her a guilt trip one minute, blaming her the next. I mean, it's everywhere. This isn't going to help. And if it's not going to help, then you have to sit there and say, what's the ulterior motive? The ulterior motive is either just plain cash or the attention. And neither of those have anything to do with fixing the family.
If I had done something terribly wrong, that would be fine, but I haven't. So I just want an answer. I don't like to say it, but I got to say it. I don't know of anybody that's that cold to do this. And now, like I said, Meghan did it to me, and now Harry's doing it to his father. That's a cold thing to do.
It is an incredibly cold thing to do, and I would even argue that it might indicate a mentally ill thing to do. But my question is, well, don't you have a problem with the fact that Samantha did it with her kids, that Thomas Jr. did it with his kids? I mean, this isn't the first time this happened within this family, so I don't know why this is the one that's getting years worth of attention or thousands of dollars sent to him. I mean, there's no part of this that makes any sort of legitimate sense to me.
Meghan, about 14. She was a homecoming queen for boys' college. And the baby pictures, see?
Visiting Thomas Markle's house,
Here, the signature knows this thing.
you'd never know that he and his daughter Meghan aren't on speaking terms.
To be honest, if you want to look at his home and look at the pictures on his wall, you'd never know she wasn't an only child. Where are the pictures of Samantha and Thomas Jr.? I mean, why is it only photos of Meghan? There was only one collage there, and that was a collage of Meghan's pictures. Where are the other ones?
Did you find yourself feeling sorry for Harry at all when you heard just how much he'd been suffering?
Yes, but he contradicts himself so much.
I mean, is he just toying with us now? I mean, is that what it is? This is just a toy. This is just a game, right? Because he's got to be kidding me. Harry is the one contradicting himself? There is not a Markle that I have seen tell the same story twice, but it's Harry that's the contradiction. And then he goes on, because I'm getting tired of this interview and I'm going to move on very soon. But then he goes on to say that Harry should have known better. And when Meghan was feeling so depressed, Harry shouldn't have called the royals. He should have called a doctor. Well, how about the fact that your 30 some odd year old daughter should have called the doctor? I mean, what, you're going to put that on Harry? Oh, give me a break. I mean, the whole thing is ludicrous.
Yes,
Do you consider yourself partly to blame for her suffering?
maybe to some percentage, but I was there at any time. She could have picked up the phone and called me at any time. She has my phone number, so no.
So it might be his fault, but then it really isn't. So whatever. All right. So that's this. That's this interview. I honestly can't take any more of it. So that's this one. And like I said, this was in June 2021. So obviously, as I said, that's right after the Oprah Winfrey Fest, right after Lily's birth. Again, this is one that, if you want to say that in the timeline of events, if he's going to make these appeals, fine, maybe after Lily's born. Or how about this? After Lily's born, you don't call her, you don't do an interview, and you give her the space to call you. Just a thought. Just a thought, Thomas. Just a thought. Now is when we're going to start to get into some of these interviews that are going to show you some very important characters linking themselves together. The next interview I want to show is from May 30th, 2022. And this is an interview with Thomas Markle Jr. and Dan Wooten. And for what it's worth, when Thomas Markle Jr. is in a structured environment, like when he is doing an interview, honestly, he comes off the best of the three of them. And when it comes to structured interviews, that should be his game. Put Samantha onto the YouTube channel and you just do the interviews because he becomes across when he's answering questions asked of an interviewer, he comes off as the most sincere, in my opinion. He's the one that can carry the sincerity. And he does less of the manipulation tactic of making those triggers so that the fan base is going to be triggered. But, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's still some of it there, but this is actually his best medium.
Indeed, let me just say to Thomas Senior, we're so sad, Thomas, because of course you were meant to be in the air right now, joining us in London tomorrow for a very special week at the Platinum Jubilee. But Thomas, you will get on that plane. Might just take you a few more months. And Thomas Markle Jr., I believe your dad has a message to the Queen as well.
Yeah, Dad wanted to say that he was very, very much looking forward to attending the 70th Jubilee celebration. He really wanted to be there. He sends the Queens his best regards, but he will be there soon. He will be there at a future date, and maybe then they can have their meeting.
Now, to recap on that, what they're talking about there is that Thomas Markle Sr. was initially, obviously, supposed to go to the wedding, and he wasn't able to attend due to his heart condition. And obviously, that's when a lot of the problems came. Then the second time he was supposed to go to London was for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. He was, I believe, going to stay with Lady C. That's the best of my recollection. My recollection may vary, but that's the best memory that I had, that it was supposed to be at the invitation of Lady C, but he had a medical emergency that prevented him. And then the third event was Lady C's charity ball. I believe it was this past summer that he was supposed to attend. And again, health conditions prevented it. Now, once, bad luck, twice, coincidence, three times? Come on, something's going on here. Is it that he cannot travel to the UK? Is it that he cannot travel to the UK without being on a private plane and no one's shelling out the bucks to do that? What exactly is it that's preventing him from going to the UK every single time? Okay, so you know what? Hey, you didn't make it to the Jubilee. That was years ago. And you didn't find a time to make it back? I mean, you're retired. Really? Like, come on. Something is off there, and I don't know what it is. Are any of the Markles allowed to go back to the UK? I don't know. I mean, we know Samantha's been there and, sitting outside the Buckingham Palace. Maybe none of them are allowed. I don't know that I'd blame the UK government for saying that.
Oh, we're going to hold you to it, Thomas. The plane ticket is just on hold, okay? It's just on hold. It's not cancelled. We're going to bring you to London come hell or high water.
Do. Yeah.
Now, Thomas, there are a couple of things I wanted to pick up on because the Sunday Mirror front page at the weekend claimed that your sister Meghan had been in touch with your dad and was intending to reconcile but wanted to cut both you and Thomas's other daughter, Samantha Markle, out of the picture. Is that true at all?
Well, let me be very clear on what I say next. This actually happened prior to their wedding. Probably caused my dad some problems there as well. But Meghan had contacted my father saying if he wanted to come to the wedding, that he had to disown myself and my sister Samantha. So maybe that still applies to her, or maybe that's what she's still thinking. But that's definitely what happened.
So this is May 2022, which would be 4 years after the wedding. And you're telling me this family that would sell each other out and throw them under the bus in a heartbeat is now all of a sudden coming up with this story that the whole time the problem was that Meghan was expecting Thomas Sr. to disown them? I mean, I find it very difficult to believe that that has been, quote unquote, the case all along, and we're only now finding out about it 4 years later. Why wasn't that the first thing that they said? Why wasn't it the second thing? Why didn't we hear that after a year? After a year of Meghan behaving like a spoiled child that, wouldn't talk to her father, why didn't we hear about it then? Why did it take 4 years? Did it take 4 years for them to come up with that story? I'm sorry. I find it difficult to believe, and that is absolutely, allegedly, and in my opinion, not the case. But obviously, I mean, this is what they're saying, and you can take that for what it's worth. But I just don't know that any of them have that trust factor going for me personally, that I could believe that they would keep that information to themselves when they could have gained money from it.
And to answer your question, Dan, she made no attempt whatsoever at all to contact my father. I've been with my dad the whole week. She still has the same phone number she's had forever. My dad still has the same phone number. She could have called, she could have texted. So, yes, it's a completely fabricated story about she tried to contact and reach out.
How can he be making a definitive statement that he knows for a fact that Meghan has not changed her phone when he hasn't spoken to her? I mean, wouldn't that be a necessary piece to the puzzle? That he would have had to have spoken to her in order to find out whether or not she's using the same phone. And this, not for nothing, but this brings up something that had happened between Thomas Markle Jr. and Paula M. I remember, and I don't quote me on these and that I don't know the specific details, but I do know that there was a point at which it was Thomas Markle telling Paula M., "Oh, that's Meghan. Meghan called you." Come on. At the time, there was something about her having a couple different phone numbers, and that's one of them because it's the right area code, or I don't even know those details. But how do you know these things, Thomas? If you're not in touch with her, how do you know what her phone number is? And how do you know that's still her phone number? And why are you getting involved in telling Paula M that's her phone number? The whole thing smells fishy to me. And I think that Paula M was set up in that situation. Now, that's just my opinion. And obviously, I'm being quite honest and saying I don't know all the details. But from what I've heard, it's all very suspicious. And the fact that it's connected to this concept that he knows what her phone number is. Well, how the hell does he know what her phone number is if he hasn't spoken to her in 4 or 5 years? That's not even taking into account the fact that even before the Harry situation, I don't believe Thomas was in touch with his younger sister at all. I mean, we hear an awful lot about how Samantha spoke to her 3 years ago. She saw her at a graduation. When was the last time Thomas saw his sister? Do we hear about that? Because I don't recall ever hearing that. And, ironic considering the fact that we hear all the time about when Samantha last saw her sister. And how about this? How about before all of this happened? When was the last time Thomas saw Samantha? I mean, because from what I'm reading, these people have been estranged for an awful long time. And the only time that it became important that they were suddenly, this close and loving family was when Meghan joined into the royal family. Now, again, don't get me wrong. I'm not defending or justifying Meghan's behavior in any way. I'm just saying that none of these stories are adding up, and you can't just say that there's only one bad guy in this situation.
And Thomas, she is literally about a 3 or 4 hour drive away. I mean, it's closer for her to get to you and your dad than it was for her to get to Texas. So practically there's nothing stopping her.
Yeah. Not only is it 3 or 4 hours away, it's like how many days late? I mean, it's just, no comment. It's just, my God. I mean, she just needs to figure out who she is as a person.
Let's remember that everything that I say in this video is my own opinion, and I do expect that you would do your own research and form your own conclusions. But I'm going to try and say this in a way that's not going to be too offensive. And kind of, without saying it, make my point. In 2017, Thomas Markle Jr. was giving interviews to the Daily Mail saying, "This is a fairy tale romance of all time." In 2018, he was writing to the royal family saying, "This is the worst mistake in royal family history. It's going to destroy all your traditions and destroy everything." 2019, he was getting married and was talking about inviting his sister to the wedding, which, by the way, never happened. Then he's on Big Brother, trashing his sister left and right, trashes his father, trashes his other sister at some point in time, trashes his children for supporting their aunt. And within a year of this interview, he's going to be on YouTube dressing in a wig and a moon bump and talking about donkey crotches. But he's the one telling her she needs to figure out who she is as a person. I think that pretty much all speaks for itself.
Thomas, I wanted to ask you about these vile individuals who refer to themselves as the Sussex Squad, because they were posting some of the most revolting things about your father and his trip to London with GB News. Some of them even featured me in the days and the weeks before his stroke. Do you think all of this trolling made any difference to Thomas's health?
Well, I'm going to tell you, Dan, I was here, like I said, the day before I left, and I came over to my dad's house because I have a place 3 doors down as well. And I was concerned because I was looking at my Instagram. I have an Instagram page since I started when I went on Big Brother VIP in Australia. It's called The Real Thomas Markle Jr. And I get so many horrific threats from the Sussex Squad and a few others, which are just like, I don't even pick on Meghan on my Instagram page at all, ever. But when I see this stuff, it's just crazy. And then so I come to my dad's house and start going through it, and I look on YouTube, and my God, I see the Sussex Squad and the Royal Sussex page on YouTube and the things they post, and that's where I found that disgusting video making fun of my father just because he's going to the Jubilee. I mean, and if you look on the Royal Sussex page on YouTube, you're going to see exactly whose it is. It's definitely Meghan Markle.
Oh, Thomas, you do make this fun for me sometimes. The channel that he's talking about right now, the YouTube channel that he's referring to, that's the Lemon Rat Royal Sussex. It's run by the guy's name, he calls himself Baron. And this is also the page that Thomas Jr. and his other little minions went on as me and faked it. You know, they wanted to impersonate me and put me on this because this is apparently a channel that he has a grudge against because of, you know, whatever they did, which has nothing to do with me and has nothing to do with anybody. But the fact that he already has a grudge with them, it kind of explains why he's going to try and lump me in with them. Yeah. Now, as for the rest of what was said, yeah, let's not forget that the Sussex Squad is very much so on the Markle radar. That's the worst thing that they can think to call someone is a squatty, right? Because that's a horrific insult. And that's why I find it so ironic that they have created their own version of the Sussex Squad. They have created the Markle Shades. Call them the Shady Bunch, whatever you want to call them. They are shadies. That's what I call them. And yes, to all of them that don't like that name, yes, I get to define who is a shady because I am coming up with the term. But that's what we're going to go with for now. So they are the Shady Bunch, and they are sitting there creating their own squad that does the exact same thing. The relentless attacks, the crappy things, lying, accusations left and right, relentless abuse. Well, you know, it just seems like all that the Markles got out of watching that abuse for years is they figured out how to do it themselves. And it's not an accident that Dan Wooten is getting in on this with the Markles. Because remember, Dan Wooten has a huge axe to grind with the Sussex Squad. And I don't blame him. He should have an axe to grind. They have treated him horribly. But the fact that the result of that is it biases Dan's opinion. I'm sorry, but it does. He's not objective when it comes to the Sussex Squad because they made it personal. And I don't blame him that it's personal for him. It would be if it were me as well. Problem is he lets that leak into his journalism, and that takes away his journalistic objectivity. I think we've gotten pretty much as much as we need to from that video. It's time to move on to the next one. And the next one we have is December 15th, 2022. Now, I've been saying this Shady Bunch, right? And part of the journey I'm taking you on is to see how all these little pieces came together. And again, I didn't come up with that in a weekend. I didn't come up with that, at the spur of the moment. And the Shady Bunch did not come together in a weekend. It's been in the works for an awful long time. And you're starting to see all the players come together. And there's still some final pieces of the puzzle that'll be in the finale. But for now, these are definitive steps in a journey. Because the interview we're going to look at now is a Dan Wooten interview with Samantha and Thomas Jr. and Lady C.
Well, in a world-exclusive interview, Samantha Markle joins me now to give her first reaction to Meghan's latest attacks, and she's alongside the royal insider, Lady Colin Campbell, who is here to offer the Windsor perspective. Sam Markle, wow, so much to discuss. What do you make of it?
Well, good evening, Lady Colin Campbell and Dan. It's so good to be here. Shocking, as you all know, and it just incredible, just such a display of projection, in my opinion. Firstly, I think we all know that they were paying pricey PR to tell their story all along, controlling a lot of the media. And I think, though, a lot of people are forgetting something really important. We watched from across the pond. And it wasn't only this deal. We saw her seemingly upstaging Beyonce at the Lion King premiere and hitting Bob Iger up for voiceover work.
So this is December 2022. She's on here to talk about the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary. So why the hell is she talking about Beyonce and the Lion King thing? Because Samantha is very clever and very manipulative. And whenever she goes off on a tangent, you have to stop and think about what she's doing because it's never by accident. It's never just a tangent. She is on here this time appealing to the Americans. Americans don't care so much about the curtsy say. Okay? She is out here to appeal to Americans. Lady Colin Campbell will take care of the royalists. Let Samantha take care of the Americans. And so what are they going to relate to? They're going to relate to Beyonce. They're going to relate to Bob Iger. They're going to relate to the Lion King experience. And that's going to trigger the people across the pond. She said it herself, the people across the pond to seeing the things that are their hot button issues. So right away, Samantha's pulling people in to take on her point of view, to take on the same impressions that Samantha has. It's very manipulative and it's very intentional. And honestly, if you take nothing else out of this Apple Tree series, that's what I would want you to take is that sense that is most likely the case anytime that you see Samantha go off on a tangent. Or, by the way, Meghan, same thing. When they seem to go off on these tangents, they're manipulating their audience and they're trying to trigger something because they're triggering something to get people on side with them. And if you can hone in on that, you can glean so much more from what they say because you're looking at the story behind what they're saying.
Which is my understanding is
Yes.
prohibited.
Well, I heard the same thing, Sam.
Yeah.
I heard the same thing, that deals were actually being done with Disney and with the book company when they were still working royals, and that went against all. Oh wow!
Hey,
This is Thomas.
What's up, guys?
Thomas Markle Jr. too. Have you just?
You guys, how come I wasn't invited to this?
Look, join us, join the party. This is great. We've got both Markle siblings now, Thomas Markle Jr. Great to have you. And Tom, how's your dad? Always have to ask because you've been looking after him. So have you surprised? Is this a surprise trip to see Sam? Is he with you?
What dad? I don't have a dad.
Oh, that's right.
Don't do a Meghan.
Megan's made it very clear we don't have a dad.
We lost our dad. She said so.
No, Dad's doing pretty well. He's he's doing good. Yeah,
has he travelled? Oh, amazing. Oh, I love that. Is one of the reasons that you've got together because this is quite a tough time for you as a family? The Markles are under attack, obviously, thanks to Netflix.
Yeah, and what I want to say about that is that's prompted me to put together an amazing production team. So in about the fall of 2023, you're going to get the best documentary of the Markles, The Truth, 100% across the board, which everybody's waiting for.
Now, this is very important because you're looking at for the production crew. You want to know what the Shady Bunch is out there doing? This is where the Shady Bunch is leading. Because this is a lot of that documentary. You got Lady C, who's got the connections and the money. You got Dan Wooten, who's got the reach. You've got Samantha and Thomas, who have the information. Then you got a popcorn man that's in there helping out too. He's the one that's filming it all. I mean, this is where we're going with all of this. And if you haven't seen that kind of build up, that's where this is going to end because that's what's going on right now. That's what that live stream that shall not be named, that was the precursor to all of this. That was setting down the groundwork in order to give them some sort of monopoly. Why did they do it? Well, could everybody have been getting a little bit too close to the truth? That's going to make this documentary that they've already invested in, they've already paid out some money for, is all that me and the Royal Grift and the Duchess of North Sussex and Laura Perot and everybody else who's coming up with additional, and Paula M., the things that we're coming up with, is that going to make this documentary obsolete after they've already put in the money? And is that the reason for the live stream that shall not be named? Let's put a stop to it. Let's intimidate people. Let's shut people up because we don't want the money we've already invested to be down the drain. That's just my speculation. That's my opinion. You should form your own opinions based on your own research. I'm just providing you the information that I am aware of because last I checked, Andy Signor was in London. And, you know, he had Steph there too. Who else is there? And how many of them you now got? A lot of the major players there in London, except for Thomas and Samantha. Maybe. Could they be in London? Who the hell knows? But getting all the players together, getting them all in the same place for that documentary. It would really suck if they had all of this ready to go, and a month before that, a YouTuber came up with things that are going to blow it out of the water. Just think about it.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
In defense of the Markles, it's long overdue. I've been getting so many comments on my YouTube channel and my Instagram. You know, spill the tea, come on. You know, I held out for a reason because I knew this day was coming, you know, and here we are.
And there you go. I'm holding out to get the big payout in the end. Because that's what this has all been, that's what we're building towards here. That's the, you know, the height of this story that I'm telling. Well, not yet. The height is in the next one, but we're getting closer. And you're getting a good idea. You're getting the bigger picture now. And you're getting to see why me and the Duchess of North Sussex and Paula M. and the Royal Griff and Laura Perot, why we are public enemies #1. Because if we put a wrench into the works that's going to stop this documentary, because they will no longer have credibility by the time it's produced, well, there you go. There's your motive right there. Doesn't get any more clear than that. But we still have a couple more players that we're going to bring into the game. So we're not done yet, but we're getting very close. And you can see, I hope you've seen what I'm building here. Because there is still a finale. There's still a couple more interviews that, you know, bits and pieces that I want to get at. And then there are the other characters that we're still going to bring in because there were more people involved in that weekend massacre. And they're there too. And you see it all, and it's been there right in front of us the entire time, plain as the nose is on our face. Been in the interviews the whole time. Why do you think that they did not like the idea that I was going back and going through all these interviews? There's a reason they were so angry. There's a reason they want to shut me up. There's a reason that Thomas Markle, with his 40,000 subs, is even bothering with my channel. Because the things that I'm saying are going to put the wrench in that works. Same with the other ones. It's just mine is the more bizarre one in that I am such a small channel, I should not be on anyone's radar. But I am. And there's a reason. So that's where we're at. Like I said, there's still some more pieces that I'm going to put in the puzzle, but, you know, I think it's about, you know, 45 minutes in, you know, and if you're anything like me, you can only take these interviews in small doses, and then you get to a point that you just, blah, you know, you just can't hear any more of it. And so I think this is a good place to kind of put a stop because, you know, there is more to tell, but small doses. I hope that there's only one more left. I hope that there's the one finale. It is possible, though, these things end up longer than I expected. Like I thought that I would have gotten through more in the 45 minutes, but, you know, that's okay. I mean, you know, it's either going to be one or two more videos. But once we get to the end of it, then I think we'll have a pretty good picture of exactly what's going on behind. You know, people have said it a lot lately, right? Behind the scenes. Well, maybe this will give you a little bit of idea of what I think is going on behind the scenes. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.
dancing in the rain.